guys, how are you? I hope you're well. Oh my god, it's so nice here in Calgary. You see this glare of light you see behind me? It's what time? It's I think 8 p.m. right now, and the sun is bright and hot outside. Okay. So anyway, today I want to address one of the most trending questions in my inbox this week. How long will it take me to get a job once I land in Canada? Okay, so guys, come on in, tell me, have you subscribed? If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, like and share this video. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. My name is Lois. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and I'm based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. The video's purpose here is only for education purposes only. Please do not take this as legal advice. You can now find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Yes, we are on those 4 platforms. Just search for Milele Immigration Services, or on TikTok, we are Immigrate to Canada. Okay? Now, guys, I know this question crosses a lot of people's minds. You know, there's always that question. So if I leave everything here back home and I move to Canada, how long is it actually gonna take me to land a job? And you know, it's a valid question for everybody. I wish I had an answer for everybody. Like I would just shoot one straight answer and boom, there you go. But this is not a one size fit all kind of scenario. So how about we look at various scenarios, because it actually depends on the type of visa that you arrive on. Okay? Remember, for you to work in Canada, you need to be authorized. What does that mean? You either need to have a visa that allows you to work, or you have a work permit. So let us see various ways that people would arrive to Canada, and then we see what it takes for them to get a job, and then we can determine how long it would take, approximately how long it would take those people to get a job. Okay, guys, before we even get there, I just want to say this. In Canada, it happens a lot. And you know, where I come from, they used to call it nepotism, but in this country, you know, getting a job actually depends on who you know. So people who have networks find work easily. So it's always in your best interest, if you know someone, ask them to put in a good word for you at their place of employment, because that goes a long way. Okay? And anyway, I'm gonna address that later in a different video, so I'll come back. So right now, let us see, because your job search, or rather how long it takes you to get a job, could be one day, could be a week, could be a few months, could be never. And I hope never is never the scenario. But again, I like being real, guys. I like shooting it straight. I like telling you what happens, because I'm on the ground. I know how things happen, and I know, you know, as YouTubers, we're used to telling you things that you like to hear. Okay, that's what people do. They're always telling you things that you want to hear, but then it's always good to have, you know, the real life feel, because we've lived here. Oh, the reason I do these videos is to make sure that you don't repeat the same mistakes that I did or that I've seen other people do. So, one way to arrive in Canada, if you're coming here on a visitor visa, that's scenario number 1. If you're coming here on a visitor visa, how long will it get you? How long would it take you to get a job? Now, my friend, listen. When you come on a visitor visa, it's just a visitor visa. You're not authorized to work on a visitor visa, which means you have to convert your visitor visa into a work permit or something else. Okay, so the biggest issue there is for you to get a work, a job offer within the validity of your visa. Your visa most of the time allows you to be in Canada for about 6 months at a time. So as a visitor, you realize that most of the time an employer has to get you something called an LMIA. That's 98% of all cases. They have to get you an LMIA. So by the time you come here as our visitor, and you hunt for a job and you find this good job, and this employer wants to go the extra step and do an LMIA application for you, you realize, and then you apply for a work permit. That's quite a process. So you land An LMI takes a few months to process, and then you apply for a work permit, still takes you a few months to process. So do you see, you're still not working for all this duration. So you find that as a visitor, it could take you 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Okay? And remember, there's that validity and obligation of your visitor visa. You should make sure you do not violate your visitor visa terms, whereby you can only be in Canada for 6 months at a time. So what that means, if it's gonna take you longer, at times you may have to leave the country while they're processing your work permit, or you just have to figure out how to stay in Canada longer. So it could be 3 months, it could be 9 months. You know what? It could be never, because there's a lot of people who come here as visitors and they don't get those job offers. Job offers are not easy to come by. I keep telling you that when you're abroad and you're applying for work, it needs a few miracles in one to get that job offer from abroad. But you stand better chances when you're in Canada, but it's not guaranteed that for sure you're gonna get that job. But then again, being in Canada gives you a better chance, because you're here, you can advocate for yourself, you can look for employment, and you can build a rapport with employers and impress them in person. If they like you, they can go the extra step and get you an LMIA. So visitor visa, 3 months, up to 9 months, up to 1 year. Let's leave it at that. Okay. Now, what if scenario number 2, refugee claimants? Okay, so refugee claimants are people who come to Canada through whatever permit, mostly temporary permits. So they'll come as visitors or even students or even on work permits, and then they claim asylum. Okay, so when you claim asylum, how long does it take you to be working? My friend, the moment you claim asylum, you're not allowed to work until you can get a work permit. Yes. So even if you came on whatever visa, assuming you came on a study permit and you claim asylum, then you should not work. If you continue to work, you are working illegally. Okay, because you're a claimant now. You have changed your status from the study to claimant, to a refugee claimant, which means then now you have to go through the process of refugee claimant, and it takes about, you can apply for work permit when you're claiming for asylum, and then of course it takes a few months to process. So it could be about 3 months from the time you claim asylum until the time you get a work permit. Depends on the province. Some provinces are quite they expedite those kind of, not really expedite, but some provinces are quite fast in processing those kind of work permits. So you're still looking at about 3 months after you claim asylum. That's when you get a work permit. Getting a work permit doesn't necessarily mean you'll get a job, but that gives you permission, it gives you authority to look for a job. So after you get that work permit, you could be looking at anything like 2 days, 2 weeks, and a few months until you get a job. Okay, so even if you arrive, you're not going to be able to work immediately after you claim asylum. You have to process your work permit first. After you get your work permit, then now you can look for employment. About 3 to 4, 5 months. Okay, scenario number 3. What if you come here as a landed immigrant? A landed immigrant is someone who has the PR visa. Okay, permanent resident. Those people who come through express entry, or someone who was sponsored by their spouse in Canada. So those people come as landed immigrants. They are full-fledged permanent residents of Canada. They have a lot of rights. They have almost similar rights as Canadian citizens, except voting and a few other little privileges that they don't have. So those guys, of course, they come here, feeling like bosses. They got all the privileges. So those guys come work ready because they don't need a work permit. So how long would it take them to get a job? How long? So now here, these people mostly who come through this process are skilled immigrants. Okay, majority of them are skilled. To get a starter job, because they are PR ready, they're not applying for a work permit, they can get a job like from the next day. Okay, let's not say next day, because they have to process their SIN numbers, of course they have to process, they have to settle. But I've seen people who landed here as permanent residents and they were working in a week. Okay, depends on who you know. So now, because they are work ready, they could get a job as soon as possible. If they are really choosy, assuming they are looking for a particular kind of job that they really want, that could take them a longer time. Of course, you're being choosy, they can only do this kind of work. If the work they're doing needs licensing, of course, that's going to take time. But if they're not choosy and they're ready to take up any job that is available so they can be able to pay their bills, it can be anything from 2 weeks to 3 months. I have seen people here still, so I've seen people who came here and they were not able to get jobs. Those ones are special cases. Maybe someone is going through something. So we are not going to get into that. I'm talking about the majority of them. So majority of permanent resident people get jobs from 2 weeks up to 3 months. Okay? What if you come as a student? Okay, guys, excuse me. If you come as a student, you have a study permit, you're temporary, then, you know, there's some obligations to the study permit. But what I want to mention to you is, as a student, you also come work ready. Of course, there are some regulations and some restrictions as to how many hours a student can work. Students can work full-time in school, or they can work 20 hours a week outside school. Okay, so the moment a student lands in Canada, they don't need to be applying for any work permit, so they are work ready. They could be getting a job anywhere from 2 weeks as soon as they process their Service Canada papers. You know, of course, they need a bank account, they need their SIN numbers, all those things, because they also need to give the employer something called a void check, where their salary is gonna go to. So as soon as they settle down, 2 weeks, you've settled down, then they can get a job. Okay, it depends on just how much initiative they have towards finding a job. That applies to everybody, because jobs are not somewhere just waiting for people. You still have to come and apply for work. So that is personal initiative that everybody has to take. How aggressive, how determined are you? Okay, then the other scenario, you come here on a work permit. But I want to divide that into two, because you know we have two types of work permits, major work permits. So we have employer-specific work permits and open work permits. So if you come here on an employer-specific work permit, guess what? The employer gave you a job from your home country. So you also came here like a boss, okay? You came, you're assured of a job, you have no worry in this world, you can start working from day one. Okay, because you already have a job, you're not even going to be hunting for a job, and you have that work permit. Only that this work permit specifies your employer, so it's only tied to your employer. Okay, and that is what we call the closed work permit. So for all those people who are abroad, who are in job bank, who mostly are applying for jobs to come to Canada, they would get that kind of a work permit, the employer specific work permit, because it's the person who recruits you, who helps you. You know, they apply for an LMIA, and then after they apply for an LMIA, they help you apply for a work permit, after which you come here and you work for them, and you're obligated to work for them. Okay, good. Now, the other option is the open work permit. There are classes of people who get open work permits. For example, if you're coming here as a student and you've applied to bring your spouse could come on an open work permit. That open work permit is so strong because it allows your spouse to work for anybody. And that person, the fact that they come here on a work permit, they also come here like bosses. Yes, granted, they're temporary, but this work permit makes them work ready. So they are ready to work as soon as, again, they get their SIN numbers, as soon as they get their bank details worked out and they've settled down. So they could be working in 2 weeks to 3 months. Okay, guys? So again, it's not a one size fit all. I know. I hope I've answered this question. I said this was the most trending question in my inbox this week. Everybody was like, Lois, I want you to tell me how long it's going to take me to get a job when I come to Canada. And I know a lot of people out there, because there's a lot of scammers and a lot of people who spread false gospel about Canada. They're telling you about just how much, how they're gonna bring you to Canada with jobs. I don't know. People, I've told you those stories, those, most of them are just stories. No one is bringing you to Canada. Canada is not UAE. Here you come on your own merit, so it's very hard for someone to bring you unless you're coming through an immigration program or an immigration agreement. Like we have farm workers agreements that brings people from the Caribbean to Canada, but that home worker program doesn't bring people from Africa. And a lot of you are being scammed by people who say that they're recruiting farm workers from Africa. It doesn't work like that. You're being lied to. There's nothing like that, my friend. So everybody else, apart from those people who come through those trade agreements, NAFTA, the Chile agreement, etc, etc, unless you're coming through that kind of an agreement, no one is able to get you a job or to recruit you. Okay? So guys, be careful. If someone says they're bringing you to Canada and you're going to find a job ready, please ask to know more. Ask to know more about that job. If you're unsure, always seek legal advice. If you're there, you don't know what's happening, someone has given you a job offer, they're telling you they're applying for a work permit, they're asking you for money, please, my friend, seek legal advice. If you want my help, I'm always ready to help you. So please book a consultation on my website. Yes, I check legitimacy, but I do it for a fee. Please book a consultation on my website. Okay, guys? All right, so thank you so much for being here with me. I will see you in my next video. Bye now.